Hey, everybody. Thank you for hopping on this evening and joining me for the show. I got a pretty interesting guest today, and she's got a really good message to pass along to people. So, uh, in these times that we have going on now, with people being quarantined and even more and more, uh, more and more restrictions are getting put. I don't know when it's going to be a matter of time before they go ahead and they just, tell us all to just stay home. So, uh, hey, I got Diana on as well. She's been a former guest. Thank you for hopping on. Uh, yes, check it out. You got the backdrop. It is awesome, and I'm loving this. Um, I got to give a big shout out to Sherry Lawley. Me and her connected on LinkedIn, and we met on the Pirate broadcast. It's hosted by Russ Johns, and uh, I don't know what other word to describe her except amazing. So hopefully she gets to see this, and if not, I'll make sure she does. I'm going to share this with her because, again, she made this backdrop for me, and I love it. It is awesome. I'm in love right now. So thank you for hopping on, everybody. Again, we got a good show tonight. But before we start going into our guests, let me just see if I can get you guys to follow us along on our social media platform. So if you're watching the show on the live stream, go ahead, drop in the comments, hashtag, just like Diana did, hashtag Team Live, right? And let them know that you're watching live. And then you can also drop Team Replay, hashtag Team Replay in the if you're watching the replay after we've uploaded everything and the show's over. And if you got any comments or anything, I'll reply to them usually during the show. If not, I'll answer them after the show. But I do appreciate you coming on. You can follow us on Facebook at the Made from Scratch broadcast page, or you can follow me at Gabriel Leal on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at Gabe's My Word Vomit on Twitter, which I stream there through Periscope. And then you can follow me on Instagram. We do a little bit different on Instagram where we do a behind the scenes sort of thing. So I do Instagram separately, but you can follow me there at _Gabriel_Leal on Instagram, or you can check out our YouTube page where we stream live there as well. And we're also streaming on Twitch. So we do got our video streams covered. And then if not, you can go into www.anchorfm.com and you can check out the Made from Scratch podcast. But we also stream on different platforms as well. So we do Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, and you can radio broadcast, and then you can also check us out on Apple Podcasts as well. So I believe we're formalizing that as well. So we got all our bases covered. And again, if you're watching on YouTube Live, please do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, as we're trying to build our viewership there. And it gives us the ability to do a few more things the more followers we get there. So I really do appreciate it. And leave your comments and stuff after watching the videos, and I get back to them as soon as I possibly can. So tonight, my guest, and she is she's an advocate for what they call IPV, or intimate partner violence, and she's very interesting. She's done a lot of different things as far as activism, creating a movement, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is the movement that she started with the hashtag that she shares. But I'll let her explain that a little bit more. So guys, can you give me a big welcome? Help me welcome Elle Hoffmann to the show. So hey, Elle, are you there?
I'm here. Hi guys.
All right, so we are live, and we already have people watching along, which is pretty awesome. I love this. So let's go ahead and start about talking about you, Elle. Can you describe us a little bit more, or tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Oh,
I know. Sorry.
Like high level, or just me as a person,
Just
or
you,
what?
just you as a person. Just you as a person before we get into all that. I mean, I think.
Yeah. So I consider myself guess if I were to wrap myself in like one term, it'd be the black sheep.
Yep.
I'm always the kind of the rule breaker, the one that likes to test the boundaries. I walk my own path. Outside of that, I am a pit bull lover. I have a pitty who is my entire heart. Coffee obsessed.
That's awesome.
Trying to go out and be an adventure seeker in the world. Seek new
Awesome.
things.
That's awesome. No, I love that. I love, I'm a big dog person as well. I have 4 of them. So,
You got your hands full.
yeah, I got 4 kids. I got 4 animals. So again, it's, we do have a lot going on in our household, but that's the way we love it. I wouldn't want it any less. So, let's go ahead and start into the topic that we are going to talk about this evening. And we're talking about IPV, or intimate partner violence, right? And could you do us a little bit, do the audience a little favor and describe it a little bit more for those who are unfamiliar exactly what that is?
So intimate partner violence is kind of the newer term that's used to describe, I guess domestic violence is still described as domestic violence, but intimate partner violence is a little bit more focused. So this is really a relationship dynamic. So 2 people that are in an intimate relationship, and one is holding significant abusive power over the other. Whereas domestic violence was a little bit more geared towards married couples, or violence that was going into your standard home. So it just gives it a little bit more of a clear definition that you don't have to be married to be experiencing domestic violence.
Awesome. And as we talk about that, you're also doing something, what you're calling the stress-free challenge, and you can follow that at the hashtags. I'm sorry, shame-free. I'm sorry, it's the shame-free challenge. I kind of swallow my own words there, thinking about it off the top of my head. So, can you explain what that is a little bit more for those who want to follow the hashtag?
Yeah. So I relaunched. So I had a nonprofit that was focused on another issue. We spun that into a technology startup. So I kind of put that organization in hibernation mode.
Yeah.
And have relaunched it with the first campaign of the Shame-Free Challenge. So the organization is called the Healing Link. And our mission is to build supportive communities around intimate partner violence, or to end intimate partner violence and empower victims into thrivers. Mm-hmm. So the Shame-Free Challenge, there is a lot of shame around abusive relationships. There's a lot of silence. Abuse thrives in silence. It thrives in isolation. And the goal with that hashtag and that challenge is to really break the shame. So we live in a society where social media is a very centered part of our lives, and how we connect with people in our circle, how we keep updates on their lives. But what it's really turned into is a highlight reel. So everybody feels like they have to have their life figured out, and they have to maintain a certain status quo. When in reality, everybody has their hardships, whether it is intimate partner violence, or whether it's money issues, or whether it is whatever it may be. And so the goal with that is, one and foremost, to shine a light on intimate partner violence and to break the shame. But for everybody to begin a movement of being authentic, being vulnerable, showing our real selves, so we can stand in our truth, and that we feel we are in a trusted community where if we need help, we can reach out. And that is one of the biggest driving forces of that campaign, is for, if anybody were to participate, if someone in their circle is in an abusive relationship, that they can come to that person and they know that person's not going to judge them or shame them, and be that more of an empowering support figure as they try and get out of it, escape, and rebuild their lives.
Yeah, exactly. So, not to get, well, I don't know. This is a really personal question, and you don't have to answer it if you want. But I'm going to ask: Have you ever been in an abusive relationship?
So, yes, it's personal, but I'm very transparent about it. I talk about it. It's not been a long time, but now I do talk about it frequently. So yes, I was about a year ago. I left a severely emotional and physical abusive relationship that I was in for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I never saw myself being in a relationship like that. I've always been more of the independent person in my family and friends. Hard-headed or stubborn is how they like to describe me.
Yeah.
And I always thought if a partner raised their hand or demeaned me in any way, that I would walk away. But it's a very much of a mind game. And it doesn't start, it's not like the relationship starts and they raise their hand at you. It starts of a relationship that's full of charisma and excitement and just a new adventure in life. And it slowly starts to steamroll. And then before you know it, you're in this hurricane. But even for myself, it wasn't until I started to get out of that relationship that I even really realized what I was actually in. I saw it, I compartmentalized it. I didn't see the abuse, the emotional abuse of it. I acknowledged that we were not healthy communicating. And I acknowledged that there had been many physical altercations between us. But I put them as just like moments. And then before you know it, it's just like you've invested so much time and you're like, if I just give them one more chance, and they keep promising or whatever. And it's not, and every situation is completely different. Mine is by no means what everybody else experiences, but there's even time where it's like suicidal threats when you go to leave. There were so many times of me driving through downtown Cincinnati, searching for him, panicking that he was going to end his life because I went to leave. So it's a mind game. It's a total mind game, and it's hard to really wrap your mind around what that experience is like unless you've really walked that path.
Yeah, that's wow, that's pretty deep there. And again, there's a lot of emotion tied into making that decision because you still want to remember the good. Mm-hmm. And most people want to believe that people are good deep down inside, but again, you also have to look at the reality of the situation. So that's crazy though that somebody can go through that and yet still feel guilty for wanting to leave because you still feel emotions for the other person. And again, it is a very volatile situation to do something like that. So based on your personal experiences, what signs or triggers should someone who has like a friend or a loved one in an abusive relationship look for to kind of like say, hey, that you need to really think about this. You need to think about, getting out of it.
Yeah. That's a really hard situation for friends and family to be in, because you want that person just to see it for what it is, and to know that they deserve better, when that person is really in just like a hurricane. But some of the things that they can look for is change of personality, seeming a lot more stressed. Anytime I wasn't with him, I was always terrified he was going to text and I wouldn't text him back right away. And then I would have a stream of text message. So it would get to the point where I stopped hanging out with friends or doing things as it wasn't worth the stress that I was going to have to experience. So one, their personality changing, them being more distant, not being present how they normally would have been.
Yeah.
And you can see it in the person to a certain degree. If you're close enough, most of these individuals, not all of them, but a lot of them come off as very charismatic. My abuser was, he volunteered. He was extremely successful in the technology and finance world. All of his employees and employers loved him. His friends loved him. And so it is hard. But if you see them starting to distance themselves and pull away from you, abuse thrives in isolation. It thrives in silence. So one of their biggest tactics is to get the victim away from their support circle, pull them away. So that is a big red flag, is if they start no longer hanging out. And there's always a transition when people start having relationships and you start blending your lives together. And that's kind of how I saw it, as like, okay, like we have to like share time, when in reality it was all his and nothing on my end. So there's a balance with ensuring that there's like actual balance. And just if you see any subtle signs of control where that person goes to like speak up and is quickly put down or being put down right in front of others. There was like one instance, I moved down to Charlotte with my ex, my abuser, and so I dropped out of school and went and being an entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since.
Yeah.
But when I was in that relationship, I was transitioning out of one company. So I was in the equestrian world. I rode professionally. And I was leaving that industry and then going to my tech startup in the nonprofit world. And he assured me, he was like, let's leave. And then you can just total tunnel vision into what you're doing. But then it was financial abuse. So I left my job. I had a savings account, but all that money was supposed to go into my startup. And he was a big drinker. He would always want to go out. And he would do things like, and this was always consistent in different variables, but like being at a bar, and he would want me to pay. And I'm like, I'm not, one, you wanted to go out, and I have my money that I need to put into my company. And that was one of our deal when I left my job. But he would twist it where I was taking advantage of him. And then he would say in front of other people, well, this is what happens when you don't have a college degree, or you won't be able to pay for it. Like, just put me down and like find your different triggers or your like vulnerable part. And so when you see those, they may be subtle, but if you see someone trying to like do those pokes, that's another clear sign.
Yeah. That's and that kind of leads into my next question was, how do you approach someone trapped in a relationship and is afraid to acknowledge it, to accept that they are in that type of relationship?
That is a really hard spot to be in, because if someone that you love is in a dangerous and volatile situation, you just want to get them to see it and leave, and you want them to save them. And the reality of it is they have to want to leave that relationship. They've got to get to that point. And those relationships, there's even been studies where the brain, it almost acts not completely like a drug addict. And I don't ever want to compare it, because they are it's a totally different beast. And I always say, like, they're the experts of their own lives. You don't know what's going behind. And when a victim does leave, that's when they're most at risk for being killed. And that's why a lot of them do stay as well. Because they're afraid that if they do leave, that person will come after them and kill them. So they are in their most vulnerable position for harm when they leave that relationship. But from my experience is, don't ever force anything. Don't ever tell them what is going on in their life.
Yeah.
Bringing up in suggestions of saying, I've seen this from the outside. You just don't seem like your happy self anymore. Is everything okay? That always helps a lot of just kind of opening that line of communication,
Yeah.
giving them resources to educate themselves. So on our website, we have a resource link that has a lot of just different educational pieces, and we'll continue to add on to that. But it's just them. Like, my biggest thing when I went to go leave that relationship, and I was actually in therapy at that time, it was actually the second therapist. The first therapist asked me if I was an intimate partner violence relationship, and I left him because I didn't want to accept it. The second one, she asked me the same thing, but that time she gave me resources to educate myself. And I think that was a very pivotal point in my journey of really escaping. Learning about gaslighting, learning about trauma bonding, learning about how abuse functions, how it thrives. It kind of turns the table, and you start to be like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, this isn't all in my head. I'm not the one that is wrong here, because that was another big thing. Like, anytime I knew there was an argument coming up, I would prepare myself, like, not let it get turned around. I'm not going to let it get turned around. I'm not wrong here. I'm right. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And it never failed. It would always get turned around to the point where you actually believe it. And so, one, giving them resources, making sure that they know where the hotlines are. So if there is an emergency, they know who to call. The police are always, like, if you need a very quick, immediate response, 911 is always a great immediate source. But if you're looking for emergency shelters, anything like that, the National Domestic Hotline is great, and so much more. But just even like articles and blogs, or YouTube videos that describe narcissism, describe the power dynamics, the power cycle, just getting them to educate themselves on the situation that they're in. That was the biggest tool for me. But besides that, I can't preach this enough to never force them to make a decision. That is a big reason why we did this shame-free challenge. When someone participates, they get a PDF on how to best support a victim. And from my experience, my family, when they found out, and they didn't find out on my terms. They found out through other resources, and they formed an intervention to try and get me out. And it was with all good intention on their end. It was the most painful and the worst thing that occurred on my getting out of that relationship. It made me feel judged. It made me feel like I was not in control of my own life, which I already wasn't. I already had someone taking away all my power, and then you have your other support system taking away even more. So it pushed me further under his control and further into that abuse, further into that isolation. So first is never force anything on them. Be there for them. Never stop reaching out. That is a big one. Even if they don't respond to all of your text messages or answer all of your phone calls, just continue to once a week, once every other week, multiple times a week, reach out, just say hi and say that you're there whenever that person needs them. And just like as a friend, not even to say that they're in a bad situation, just so they know that they have people around them is a critical part. And then the other part is when that victim leaves, they've just started the leaving process. The average victim goes back to their abuser 7 times.
Wow.
So it's a hard journey. Myself, in this past little over a year, I went back twice. I knew we were long distance at that time. And at that point, I was more educated, so I could, like, when things started to, like, happen again, I was able to stop it and really see it for what it was and not be manipulated like I was before. But it's a long journey. There's this it's hard there's just this, like, power struggle between the two individuals in that type of dynamic, and most, not all, but I do feel that most abusers do come from traumatic childhoods.
Yeah.
I know that was part of the history of my abuser, and so it was always, I wanted to help him. I wanted to fix him. One time that he came back was, "I'm in therapy. I'm on medication. I'm better now. Like, I've changed. Let's try this again." Victims, well, experts know that abusers can't change. They won't. They can't. It is in them. No medication, no mental therapy is going to change that. Victims hope they can change, and abusers feel like they can. But reality is, and data shows that they don't change. It's embedded into them, and unless they go into extreme, intense recovery, they are who they are, and you can't fix them. You can't heal them. You're not going to be able to save them, so you have to save yourself.
Yeah. So, you know, going through something like that, how does that, going forward affect future relationships that you might have with another partner?
You have to do a lot of healing before you're ready for something like that. There's different stages. It was, and when I say this, it was because it was from my perspective of the state I was in. Abuse happens regardless of gender.
Yeah.
It happens in all dynamics. And so the healing link, we are not gender exclusive at all whatsoever. So I want to preface that before I go into this. But when I got out of that relationship, I first went into anger. And it was to the point, like, walking down the street and any man that was around me, I would always question if they were an abuser. Or just like any of these triggers, like, I just wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And so then it went from anger to hurt. And the hurt, and there was anger involved in that too, was towards my family, on the intervention, on how they handled the situation. So I distanced myself from my family significantly. Not all of them. I want to say that too. I had amazing family members that I probably would not have gotten out if it wasn't for them. But a large portion of them, I had to distance myself, blocking them on social media. And I just had to give myself space to heal and find myself again. Therapy is almost, in my opinion, a requirement. If it wasn't through therapy, I probably would not be where I am today. As far as where I am now, I mean, there's still triggers. Like, I can still have the triggers of defensiveness in different situations. They're a lot less than they were. But when you live for however many years in a constant state where it was fight or flight, that certain things, and they may never be intended like that, can make you feel like they are gaslighting you, or they're angry and they shouldn't be angry, when all they're really trying to do is voice like a problem that they're having.
Yeah.
So that's been a challenge. But it's, at the end of it, like, through healing and everything like that, is knowing that, yeah, there are really bad people out in the world, but despite that, there's more good. We do have incredible human beings around us in every aspect. And it's in a good thing. I am more aware of red flags when someone comes to me and they're like immediately in love, or like just upset, like, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
And so it's when they're texting you all the time right off the get-go, like, it's those things. So I'm a little bit more aware of how those things start. It's that love bombing is what they call it. So they make this charismatic and adventurous and exciting relationship right off the bat. There's no like true slow, like get to know the person. It's just like, boom, they're in your life. So those things I still hold like, and I am aware of. But it's a journey. Like it doesn't happen overnight. You don't automatically get out of a relationship and think it's all great and you can jump right into another. I don't recommend that even if you get out of a healthy relationship. Like you need time to kind of decompress and refine yourself as a single person. But I think it's even more critical when you get out of an abusive relationship because it's a very codependent dynamic.
Yeah.
And you're not used to making decisions on your own anymore. I mean, even to like just where to go eat, like it was always, they would ask you. I was always asked. It never like happened that way.
Yeah.
But it's just finding yourself again. And it changes you. Like I look at myself now and if anything, I don't want to say I'm grateful for what I went through, but
Yeah.
I am stronger, happier, more empowered, and determined in my life and who I am than I've ever been in my entire life. So if you just do the groundwork and you heal, like the rest of it will come. And you'll learn the red flags, but the healing before you even start dating, that's critical. Because you're going to want to fill that void, like, because they're always there. They're always there. Even if they're not physically there, they're blowing up your phone, everything. So it's that emptiness that you have to get comfortable with again.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you, what would be like, say, something you would recommend somebody to start the healing process? Like what kind of, what kind of things would you suggest? Therapy is one of them. What, is it meditation? Is it what helped you get through a lot of that? And what would you suggest to somebody who's just getting out, who's looking for those kind of, those avenues to try to find a way to work past the getting to the next stage of healing?
Yeah. Several things. Like one, as we've said before, like therapy is huge. Like I can't stress that enough. Two, I also want to say like, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be hurt. I think if you try to ignore that and just jump to the next stage, you're never really going to get to that genuine place. So I think the first step is just like acknowledging it fully of what happened. And it was not your fault. It was nothing that you did. And you have every right to be angry. You have every right to be hurt. Cry, scream, do whatever you do, but don't ignore those emotions.
Yeah.
The second thing is start to find things that bring you happiness again. So whether it is exercise, whether it's meditation, like putting healthy habits into your life, finding new hobbies, trying new things, meeting friends, reconnecting with your old friends. Social media with like Meetup and different things like that. There's so many ways. Like it was, because when I moved, I was living in Cincinnati, moved to Charlotte with my abuser, and then moved to Lexington. And so it was starting, like, even though my friends were still there, starting a little bit new, and it was going out and meeting new people, and just find those hobbies, whether it's training for a 5K or a marathon, or whether it's knitting, or whether it's starting a blog. Just find different things that make you happy and kind of take up your time.
So have you been able to find, or is there any resources that you can provide that like find support groups for somebody looking for something like that?
Yeah, there are support groups. If you go like wherever you are living, if you Google your city and intimate partner violence or domestic violence support groups, you'll find them. Support groups in the right setting are immensely helpful. Just be confident that it is not some support groups just only focus on the negative, and it's hard to get out of that hole.
Yeah.
So make sure it's a support group that allows you to have space for that pain and that anger.
Yeah.
But that you have that path to positivity, and that you're going in that direction.
Gotcha. That's the best way is just to feed yourself as much positive energy, as much positive vibes as you can. You know, I found that's a real good remedy for getting rid of any kind of negative thoughts that you might have.
The other thing I'll add really quick though is it's not rare when I start talking about it. A lot of people I've known for a long time have been through that. And if you find those people that you are already have that trusted relationship with, it's hugely valuable.
Yeah.
They're there. The numbers, I mean, it's 12 million people every year in the United States alone experience it. 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 9 men. They're all around, like everywhere. So you do have people in your circle more than likely that have experienced a lot of what you have.
Yeah. So again, and you know, going back to what we're talking about support groups. So is there like any resource where you can go, say, like we're doing now, online chatting, online forums, that sort of thing, or create a thing like that where victims can go and talk to other people? I mean, even keeping it anonymous, getting on there and
Sorry if I go to my throat.
that's okay.
I don't have corona. That's my
There you go.
but,
So
so there are a lot of Facebook groups. They do provide value. I have found a lot of them are filled with the people that are either currently in or stuck in that anger stage.
oh wow.
So it's a good place to feel like you aren't crazy, that
Yeah.
that you aren't alone, and it's a place to vent your anger,
Yeah.
I guess. But you have to know when to leave.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to get sucked into that. And even though you do need to acknowledge it, and it does help when other people can validate, because you've been invalidated for so long, because anytime you had an issue in the relationship, it was constantly invalidated.
Yeah.
So being validated is a huge healing step, but you have to know when to leave. And it's really easy to get sucked into those. So there's a lot of them on Facebook. Now, mind you, the problem with Facebook is it's not anonymous.
Yeah.
I don't know of any that are done virtually. So we are getting ready. My technology startup is Louvre Health Co., and it's comprised of 3 platforms: Luvia, can't talk, and Luvo.
Okay.
They're demographic focused. So Luvia is for women, Luvia is for the LGBTQ community, and Luvo is for men.
Okay.
So we are getting ready to deploy packages to colleges. College age groups are at most risk for intimate partner violence. So we're testing it out with the colleges, proving out our model with them, and then taking it to the DOD and then to the Justice Department. But basically, one of those packages would be online support groups. So it's not available currently. We're hoping we'll have the college level. If the students' college does sign on, they would have access to those support groups. And we're able, with our network, between the network of our professionals and the network of our colleges, we can prevent close peers. So 2 individuals from the same campus being on a support group together, or like each demographic is very different. So like women face their own challenges in it. The LGBTQ focuses on they have their own. Men have their own. And so we're able to provide very demographic focused support groups. So Again, it's not available as of yet, but we hope it's going to be available in the very near future. And then we hope to incorporate some of that within the Healing Link as well.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's pretty great that you're doing all this, because again, you're it's something that it's not really prevalent in on TV, on that sort of thing. So, it is always nice to shed light on something like this, and to let people know that there are other people out there. And you said there's, 12 million people that go through something like this. So it's not a small number. And again, yet it's not nothing that's talked about. And, uh, you know, you would hope that by creating the resources, creating the outlets for you to be able to get this message out, that hopefully somebody somewhere it'll affect their life, because that's that's what I'm all about, is at least changing one person's life every day. So you get the opportunity to do that. I feel you're making a change in the world. And that's why I really dug what you were talking about whenever I first was introduced to you. So I really love the message. I really love what you're doing out there. And so what kind of goals do you want to? What goals do you have? Any goals set for the immediate future in the next 5 years? What do you see these startups, that your technology startup? What do you envision it becoming?
So I have goals for both two projects. So it's Louvre Health and then the Healing Link. Louvre Health, we have a lot of goals with that. Our first immediate goal is to raise the rate of reporting, whether it's sexual assault or intimate partner violence. We're building tools right now that, like I said, our goal is by fall semester to be deployed. The support groups is just one of them. You can find more of them at louvrehealthco.com. But we are implementing technology, enabling it where individuals will have more accessible ways of reporting their abuse or their assault. So we hope to raise the rate of reporting. We hope to be able to support their healing journey in a much more comprehensive and accessible way, and really help that aspect for them. Louvre Health as a whole, we connect individuals to vetted sexual wellness experts. So beyond that, we're looking to really help people break the shame around sexuality, to heal from whatever they've experienced in the past, or to heal from dysfunction or pain disorders. It's connecting them to the professionals that they need to be connected to. And we really hope to drive that whole industry and make it more accessible and not so embarrassing, or what we won't talk about. This is another thing that it's intimate partner violence and sex that nobody wants to talk about, but it's around us everywhere. As far as the Healing Link, it's we have amazing organizations and then the intimate partner violence industry that are providing emergency shelters or transitional housing or hotlines. And we need more of those. But what I see with the Healing Link is taking all of that and just driving it 1,000 times harder. So we are not a first line. We're not a hotline. We are not an emergency shelter. We are what I call a transformational program. So it's for people that are already out. And we do this, one and foremost, community is our big thing. We cannot do it alone. We need a massive community with a massive voice. Everybody should be angry about this. And we're giving communities the support system to really make actual impact on this. And it is the root cause of almost every single social issue we have. Mass shootings, 54% of mass shootings are a direct result of intimate partner violence, and the experts believe that vast majority of them are indirectly related to intimate partner violence. 50% of homeless women and children are homeless because of intimate partner violence. the wage gap, career gap, like you can go on and on. It's I have a lot of those statistics on our website as well, but it's building a community. Like if you care about anything that is really, I mean, climate change is probably the only thing we don't tap into, but even animal abuse, it's all there.
Yeah.
If you want to fix that, we need to fix intimate partner violence. Like
Yeah.
we can't really solve those problems until we fix this root cause.
Mm.
We're forming communities and we're giving them the ability to create the change and to fix these. And the other thing is the goal is to build out our healing haven, and that is the 244 acres that's right south of Lexington, Kentucky. And that's where true transformation for the victims really began. It's a lot to explain kind of over this and trying to wrap it up, but it's really empowering them and giving them the tools to not only heal emotionally, not only just to survive, but to thrive to their fullest. I believe very firmly that victims they're basically prisoners of war. But with that, they have gained skills that are incredibly valuable to be successful in life. They're gritty, they're resilient, they're empathetic, they're creative, they have to think outside the box. And when they come out, they just have this part of their heart that they want to make change. They want to make the world a better place. And so we're going to give them the tools to do that. And in return, they will go off and they will themselves carry out our mission individually. And so that's kind of really what I want to see is both of those companies really making, not just being successful companies, but making real change in our world for the better.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me into the last question. And this one and I usually ask this of every guest, and it's, I always preface it by saying, it is sort of morbid a little bit, but, when your time on earth is done, what is the one thing that you want to be remembered for? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
See, I guess where I see like the work that I do, whether it's with Louvre Health or it's with the Healing Link, I may be the one that did the initial creation, but I couldn't do it alone.
Yeah.
So the one thing, I don't think it's wanting to be remembered for anything, but if I wanted something to happen after I pass away,
Yeah.
I want those companies to continue on and to really continue their work and continue their change. And if I can die knowing that that is happening, then my purpose has been served. And so whether people remember me tied to those companies or not, I just want to know that they're still going off and making change in the world.
Yeah. And that's awesome, because again, these entities, they can go beyond our own time. So you got, places like the Red Cross, Goodwill, one of my friends, his mother was a very integral part of growing the North Texas Food Bank around here. So, their memories carry on past, their time here. And, that's really great that you want to continue, you want to help grow these things, because you never know what they could really turn into, right? You could, in 50 years, Louvre Health could be one of the biggest, nonprofit organizations out there that help people, looking to get out of these kind of situations, and even expand beyond just what you're talking about doing now. So it's great that you start this, because again, everything starts with an idea. Everything starts with somewhere in your mind. And I commend you for starting something like this, making a move. So
My boyfriend's home for my dog.
Hey, don't worry about it. I had to happen the other night, so I understand. I actually have my dog. I have my dog in here with me as well when I do my show. So I do understand it. So, let's go ahead and wrap it up real quick. And again, I want to thank you, Elle, for hopping on with me. I do appreciate it. I do love the message. And guys, you can go check out again resources on the website. It's at www.thehealinglink.org. You can go there and check it out. Gives you resources to like the National Domestic Hotline. Again, there's the Rain website as well. You can go there and look. And again, if you guys want to follow Elle on her social media, again, she's out there pushing the cause, making an impact on the world. And I really love that about her. It's pretty important at the stuff that she does. So again, thank you, Elle, for hopping on. I do appreciate everything. And again, I will put all this stuff in the show notes, and you can follow it on any of the podcasts. You can follow all her information. I'll have it on there, and then I'll have it in the show notes on the YouTube channel as well afterwards. So, again, thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough for coming on. I do love the message, and I'll be sharing it a lot more on a lot of my post status updates as well, because it is an important message, and there's people out there who are probably going through this now, who might be watching this and looking for a way out, looking for help, and hopefully this can provide it for them. So, real quick, again, I just want to give a big shout out to my friend Shelly Lolly. She's the one that created the background for me, and I do appreciate any help that I get out there, and anybody that wants to help grow the show and get the message out there that like we're doing tonight, and it's really important. So, Elle, it was nice meeting you. It was good talking to you. I really loved the conversation, and I loved everything about what we just talked about.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you and all of your support that you have shown. It's been wonderful connecting with you, and I love this conversation.
Yeah, people even say, look here, I got people hopping in, love your message. It was awesome. Thank you. It's beautiful to talk about that again. So, all right, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. My guest is tentatively up in the air because they do have situations going on, and it's ever changing because of the dreaded coronavirus. So it might be a guest tomorrow. It might be me. So either way, I do enjoy hopping on. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. And again, same time, 7 o'clock. Check in on the YouTube live channel afterwards, and on Instagram as well. You got the behind the scenes going on. So have a good night, Elle. Thank you for hopping on again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.